Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasy Empire with a very small Chris Vaccaro and a much larger Nando DeFino, which is his nightmare. Point. Yeah, scoot up a little bit, man. You're watching on video. If you listen on podcast, just know that Chris is as far back as possible from his desk and microphone. Yay! What's up, man? Go ahead. You wanted to give a nice talk at the start, so I'm going to yield to you.
No, I'm just happy, this season we're back together. Fantasy player profile here.
We're always together.
With a new home, and I'm excited to do the show with you, as always, on this new platform. Every Wednesday we'll be here, and for our new audience, if you don't know what to expect, you get some good fantasy football information, as well as, two friends chopping it up and ripping on each other. So get prepared, boys.
I don't know if I would call it friends.
Okay.
I'd say a bully and a guy.
We were like the Dalvin Cook of the free agency fantasy podcast for these last couple months here, Nando.
Oh yeah, a pair that nobody wanted.
No. Actually, a lot of people wanted, and we found ourselves a new home, and we're happy with it. So let's get the season started, buddy.
I would say the fact that he was out on the open market for so long made it sound like no one wanted him.
Okay, listen,
I know you're trying to segue into running back stuff, so why don't you just go ahead and tell us what you think of Dalvin Cook? You're a Jets fan.
Yeah, as usual, you want to keep saying I'm a Jet fan. Anyway, listen,
you just come across as such a Jets fan. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm a
I don't know what it
Giants
is.
fan. Nando, listen, Dalvin Cook.
The fact you keep saying you're a Giants fan makes me think you're more of a Jets fan.
We all thought that he would wind up in Miami all off season. Right. I think that's where all fantasy players thought he would wind up going. But, the Jets gave him the money, and he to the not to the delight of Breece Hall fantasy drafters all summer long. Dalvin Cook winds up in New York here. And, he still hasn't seen his ADP change, Nando. He's, still going in the 8th, 9th round of drafts. As a matter of fact, I got him last night in one of my drafts, 94th overall as my third running back. I can't.
What do you think's coming out of that? What's coming out of it? Like 800 yards and 6 touchdowns? Like what's coming out of that 91st spot?
I think it's the perfect duo with him and Hall. I think you can expect Hall to get off to a slow start. I think most fantasy players are expecting that. I don't think they want to give Hall, a huge workload, 20 plus carries early in the season. So Dalvin Cook is going to play a nice role. I think you can use him in your fantasy lineup as an RB2 through maybe mid-October. And as Hall ramps up, as the season goes along, he'll factor in more in November and December when you're trying to win the big money and win your league. So early season, Dalvin Cook, late season Hall. If I'm a Breece Hall owner, I'm not loving the fact that I was taking him in the 4th and 5th rounds for those people that were early in the season. I got to get off to a good start. I got to try and win my, I got to try and bank some wins early and points. I don't think you're going to be able to rely on Breece Hall that much early in the season, Nando.
You going to say hi to our viewer from Wisconsin?
Hello to our friends in Wisconsin.
Like you knew that we were doing a video, and you're wearing a T-shirt that looks like you purposely pulled the neck as hard as you could.
Yeah,
it's a very strange choice.
Yeah, whatever.
You're not even that tan to be showing off your neck / chest.
You are though.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, because here's my theory: is that Breece Hall? Remember Michael Carter? Like 3 years ago was like the greatest Jets running back of all time, and everyone was sweating him, including you.
Yeah,
and then Breece Hall showed up, and everyone forgot about Michael Carter. And now, like, Dalvin Cook's here, and it's kind of like, well, Breece Hall is an injured piece of garbage. So, like, I don't know, man. I feel like Breece Hall is going to rush his way back. He's going to aggravate that injury, not aggravate, but like have like that related like high ankle sprain or like a hip impingement or something.
Yeah,
because of Dalvin Cook pressure.
Compromises something else. Yeah, you see that a lot.
I think that's going to happen. Maybe his other leg. Sometimes it happens with your other leg because you're favoring that one. Yeah. So, like, I don't know, man. I think, like, Dalvin Cook, don't drop, don't, like, he might be going at a fine spot right now, but I wouldn't drop him when you get frustrated the first 5 weeks because something's going to happen to Breece Hall.
No, I don't think anybody will be dropping him, Nando. So, I just think it's a good I think it's a good duo in that they have, but fantasy wise, I think you're going to get frustrated when the two of them, come out of a game with 13 carries and 11 carries, So that's just the way I see it.
Where do you think Jonathan Taylor is going to go?
That's the $1 million question right now, Nando. That's going to be the biggest as we head to main event season at the high stakes level. He's going to be the biggest quagmire on the draft board, in my opinion. He's
giggity
right now.
Giggity, right?
Yeah. Right now he's last until like the last couple picks of the second round, sometimes the third round, and even that's a little too rich for my blood right now, Nando. I don't know.
You used to love Jonathan Taylor. That was like your guy.
Well,
you made me put him in so many headlines of things you wrote.
He was a stud, but you know what? That offensive line isn't what it used to be. So I wasn't even going to be in on Jonathan Taylor if there were none of these issues surrounding him. So the fact that he's still sometimes a late second round, early third round draft pick is, he's not really too much in my draft plan, to be honest with you. But where do I see him landing? I don't think he goes anywhere. I think the compensation that they're looking for is way too much.
Yeah.
And I think he either sits out, which I even doubt about that because these guys, they want to get paid. So I expect him week one, show up a couple days before, week one kicks off, and he'll be in Indianapolis's starting lineup.
Will he be the guy?
Yeah, of course.
21 carries, 130 yards. So then why are we taking him so late then?
No, well, because there's the possibility of him not being in the lineup. He hasn't practiced all summer. Season's upon us in a couple of weeks. I mean, I don't know if he steps right in week one and they give him 20 plus carries. I highly doubt that. So there's just a lot, surrounding him right now. What happens if he gets
Jeff
traded?
Saturday ended up? You think Jeff Saturday? Where do you think he ended up?
I'm sure he's doing just fine, Nando. I can tell you that.
I don't know, man. His reputation is pretty much destroyed, right?
No, not at all. He stepped in. He stepped in when they asked him to, and that's that. It didn't work out.
Chris went to college with Jeff Saturday. That's why he's defending him so passionately. We got emails. Even though I've been writing rundowns for many, many years, Chris Vaccaro has forced his will on the show.
Someone's got to write rundown.
I would do it if you would let me. But then you would run over it anyway. Show topics, FYI, from Chris Vaccaro. QBs have been all the rave all summer, getting your hands on one of the Elite Eight. By the way, here's a fun story about Chris Vaccaro's last column. And they finish the question, then but what do we think about actually waiting on QBing and going against the crowd? You're right. This year's been a lot more people who I didn't expect to be talking about. I'm getting Jalen Hurts, or I'm getting Mahomes. The wait on QB thing is kind of is gone, right?
I mean, yeah, it kind of seems like it's a thing of the past this year. As we go into the fantasy season, I just think what we saw last year with guys like Mahomes and Jalen Hurts just carrying teams on a weekly basis. Coming into this season, now everybody wants one of these elite quarterbacks that every week is going to give you, and I'm talking 6-point passing leagues for our audience. I play in mostly 6-point passing leagues. My strategy.
Are you playing exclusively 6-point passing leagues?
No, I mean, I play in some 4, but I'm just saying it's a different strategy when you drop down to 4-point passing. So just so our audience knows, most of the time when I'm talking, it's for 6-point passing leagues, whether it's high stakes level or home leagues. The quarterbacks are pushed up now. Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen. These guys, the elite 3 right there, are all top 25 picks in most drafts, and rightfully so, because these guys were consistent, and they're the guys that you could put at the top of your lineup every week and expect 30 plus points and spike weeks of 40 to 50. So yeah, it's totally worth it. This year, like I said, Nando, there is an elite 8 in my opinion.
We made a chart.
Say that again.
We made a chart.
Yeah. So
and you got upset about it.
Well, because you posted it wrong, but that's for another time.
I don't think I did. I think you had a problem with it. No one in the world had a problem with it, except for you.
You posted it as if they were super flex rankings.
I included super flex.
You were 100% wrong, but that's.
No, I was not. I think it's very interesting. People who read your column play super flex.
Okay. So Justin Herbert, Joe Burrows of the world, Lamar Jacksons, and Trevor Lawrences, these guys, and Justin Fields, These guys all go in the top 60 overall on the draft board this year. My first preference would definitely be to get my hands on one of these 8 guys. But it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you a top 5 round, 6 round pick. Now, drafters, we have to decide if it's worth it or not, or to drop down. Now, I'm just saying the options this year at quarterback, and I love all top 8 guys that come off the board here. But when you look down into those rankings of quarterbacks that are going after picks 100 overall in the 10 through 17 rounds, through 10 through 17 overall quarterback rankings, you could put together some really, really good combinations. And what that allows you to do on the draft board is buy yourself an extra running back or an extra wide receiver or an elite tight end in those first 5 rounds when you're not taking one of those elite 8 quarterbacks. It's not a strategy that, I like the elite quarterbacks. I always have. But I'm just saying, people might be forcing it up so much this year. Whereas when the teams that I've built this offseason, when I wait on quarterback and I put some of these combinations together, my teams just look a little stronger. So, there's something to be said with the 3 or 4 teams in every league that don't get one of these elite 8 quarterbacks.
It ends at Trevor Lawrence for you, right?
It ends at Justin Fields, Nando. Justin Fields is my 8th guy of that group. Now, Deshaun Watson, who has been the 9th quarterback in my rankings and still is, it's weird. He's kind of gone on a little bit of a roller coaster ride on draft boards where, the hype was starting to be like, hey, listen, this Cleveland offense is looking really good, on paper. And people started taking him from where he was going like in the 90s overall. He was moving up to the 8th, sometimes the 7th round. Then all of a sudden, what happens? We hear in the last 10 days, all the camp chatter, all the beat reporters, this Cleveland offense is a little, shaky. Things aren't flowing as well. Watson hasn't really had a great day since the first week of camp. And now you start to see fantasy players take their foot off the gas a little bit when trying to move him up if they missed out on the elite 8 quarterbacks. And now he's starting to fall back to the fact where, we've seen in the first week of high stakes drafts in the main events where Tua has even gone off the board in some instances before Watson, and even Daniel Jones, who I think we could possibly see as the 9th quarterback when the big money's on the line in high stakes leagues in these next couple of weeks.
Give me a second. We're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsor for this beautiful opportunity of you and I being together. Chris Vaccaro and his small head, Nando. We'll be right back in a second.
Let's take a moment to talk about Underdog Fantasy. Now, many of you have already signed up. Thousands have signed up from Player Profiler already over the years. Underdog has supported us since 2020. Much of what you see on Player Profiler is because of Underdog, because of their support. Get the Underdog app, plug in that promo code Underworld. I used to play Underdog just for the best ball drafts. The best ball drafts are amazing. These draft rooms fill so quickly, and you can win life-changing money. You want to take advantage of all the sleepers we talk about on this show? Well, what better place than in an Underdog draft room to do that? And I recommend taking your Underdog play to the next level by diving into their NFL pick'ems. It's important to correlate those NFL pick'ems. You can pick both the quarterbacks and the wide receivers to exceed expectations. Correlate them, and you can 5x your payout. Bada bing, bada boom. Underdog Fantasy, the promo code is Underworld. For an instant deposit match up to $100, Underdog is the truest friend of the Underworld.
We're back. I know you hate taking questions from people. Do you want to take a question from someone?
Sure.
Come on, we're doing this live, Chris. This is from Dakota. In a casual league where waivers aren't as active, would it be more advantageous for me to get an early quarterback or punt quarterback? I'll likely get whoever I want from waivers throughout the year. So that does play into what you were just talking about for 10 minutes without taking a breath.
It all depends on, the value you get at these guys. I'm not going to rush up the board to take one of them, but if quarterbacks are easily available for you in your league, then I'd wait. That's how I
Russell
would play
Wilson.
It.
Would you go in with Russell Wilson? Let's see what happens.
Russell Wilson is so free in drafts, and
right?
He's been on my quarterback. He's been my second quarterback that I've drafted in a lot of these in a lot of these leagues, Nando. And what I like to do when I wait on quarterback and I don't get one of these elite guys, I'm definitely taking 2 quarterbacks and even sometimes 3. It's crazy that, some people say, oh, no, absolutely not. I'm not taking 3 quarterbacks. But, you're not wasting top 10 round, capital on any of these guys. So what I like to do is get a nice pairing of, a pocket passer, such as like a Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff, and pair it with a nice running quarterback as like a Daniel Jones and a Anthony Richardson. If you into an Anthony Richardson type this year, types like that. So there's nice combos that you could put together in rounds 11 and on. And if Russ Wilson is sitting there, which he has been in round 16, 17 of some of these drafts, I'll take him as my third quarterback and let it play out. Yeah. You don't know what the offense is going to look like.
Imagine having a guy who's got, and this is the Geno Smith argument last year, was like he's got these amazing weapons for the first time ever. And Wilson's had good weapons before, but I mean, imagine having Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton.
Sure. And now what happens if Greg Dulcich takes a step up as a nice, athletic move tight end, and Sean Payton finds a way to get him involved? They take Marvin Mims early in the draft. He's gotten off to a little slow start in camp, but you could see him playing a nice role as a wide receiver 3 here. He was a stud in Oklahoma. So it's a nice little offense. I think we have to throw out what we saw last year from Russ and this offense under Hackett. It could be a complete disaster, and it could be a nice little value, especially as a spot starter in certain weeks. What I like doing with Russell Wilson, week 1, he's at home versus this Raiders defense. And if you draft, a quarterback like a Daniel Jones, and you see, all right, hey, week 1, he's playing this Dallas defense, I don't really love him. And you get a Russ Wilson a couple rounds later, and that's your quarterback combo. Maybe you go with Russ Wilson week 1, and he gives you, I'll tell you this about Russ Wilson. He broke off like a 15-yard run the other night in his preseason game. He looked quick, and I know he got heavy in his first year in Denver. He came in out of shape, but maybe he's one of these guys that, he rededicated himself in the offseason, and he could come back in and all of a sudden, be a quarterback that's running for 50 yards a week. And he could get you through a week when you have a loaded team at receiver, running back, and tight end. And you put a Russ Wilson there and you play the combo game. Listen, we don't all love to play the mix and match game. It's a lot easier for us fantasy players to draft a Pat Mahomes and not even think about your quarterback position every week. It's a set it and forget it. But if you don't go that route, we got to put some more time into the quarterback position, thinking about it every week. But, you play the mix and match game. You just hope that you play it right on a weekly basis.
Right, because you're talking about Patrick Mahomes and a lesser wide receiver versus I'm trying to think who you would take, and Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? Like, no matter which wide receiver I think who's good, you're going to correct me. So I'm just not.
I mean, that's the whole part. Listen, that's why this season is unlike any that we've seen in the last bunch of years. You have to go back to like the old days of 2012, 2013, when Brady, Breece, Peyton Manning were all going early. But, we are using heavy draft capital now this season on these quarterbacks. And I'm not saying it's not the right way to play it, because they can give you 35, 40 points a week, but it's eating up a big spot on the draft board for a big time wide receiver 2 in the second round, or an RB1 in round 2. And it changes the look of your fantasy team.
You sent me an inappropriate text message.
Yeah.
Why? Thought the show was great so far.
Come on.
Come on. Later in the show, we're going to introduce our top 3, which was Vaccaro's idea. He said just pick a topic, and he's going to name his top 3. So I got a few.
Wow.
We'll do that later.
You're doing
I'd like to get some real football first.
Yeah, let's do it.
What are we doing in drafts?
Quarterback position, Nando. There you go.
It's good. I like how you said there's an Elite 8, but didn't name the 8. That was a good one.
I actually did.
We're back in mid-season form.
What
are you doing?
Taking off the rust.
What are you doing in drafts with the teams that have muddled backfields? You put in parentheses Bears, Eagles, Saints, Dolphins.
Yeah, you're really setting these up very nicely as usual.
If I don't read them word for word, I'm gonna get another inappropriate text message.
You're doing a really good job. I gotta.
Why did you put the Bears and Eagles? Why did you flip them when you read them? I put them in the specific order.
And this is why, for everybody listening at home, I don't do the rundowns, and neither does Nando.
I don't do the rundowns.
He mocks them and he reads them like he's a 5-year-old. So there you go. So muddled backfields this year. There are a good amount of them, and what they're doing is giving you some decent value on the draft board. So one of my favorites that you just mentioned, actually, Nando, is the Bears. And, a combination of, they have 3 running backs.
Yeah, but you probably love Herbert.
Herbert's probably one of my most owned running backs. He's now moved up the board to where fantasy players are taking him in the 7th round and 8th rounds of drafts. But all off season, he was, he was a 10th rounder. But it seems as if he's got a good handle on the starting position, the starting running back position in Chicago. And it's just one of those backfields where early in draft season, I think we didn't know if it would be Herbert or Foreman. They were pretty stacked close on the draft boards, but now the gap has completely widened where it looks as if Deontay Foreman is now the forgotten man or the third person drafted. His ADP has fallen off a cliff and, all the way to about 175 overall. So fantasy drafters are not selecting Deontay Foreman like they were in June and July, thinking that he would be a 50-50 split. Roshan Johnson.
You think that's a big mistake?
No,
I had 600-yard games last year.
Well, the way I like to play it, Nando, it's probably one of my favorite ways of drafting this last, month and a half was to take Khalil Herbert as my RB3 or 4 in that, 9th, 10th round range, and then come back in the next couple rounds with a Roshan Johnson. Because I think it will be Herbert early in the draft, early in the season. And then as the season goes on, I really love what I've seen out of Roshan Johnson. And I think that maybe he's that running back that you get, where he's going on the board, 130 overall. And second half
I've never heard of him. How do you spell Roshan?
Yeah. There you go. I think he could take over the backfield second half of the season. So he's one of those players that, you play the long game with him. You use it as a combination of Herbert and Roshan. You could get him as your RB3 and your RB5, and you play it that way. You let the season play out. I
see people making a big mistake, and not like, because Foreman's my guy.
Just love Deontay. Deontay
but I mean,
he's going to kill it again.
He might. I mean, like, why wouldn't he? He's basically Derrick Henry.
That's out of your mouth, not mine.
Yeah, what would you classify him as? The guy, all he does is get 100-yard games.
Listen, it just seems
he almost had 1,000 yards last season in a garbage offense behind Christian McCaffrey, who played most of the year before he got traded.
I can't say anything really negative about him, Nando. You were right last year. He was a valuable player, and he's. I just see it as Herbert's the main guy, and Roshan's the long-term play.
Yeah, but with Roshan, I mean, like, you're talking about an offense with Justin.
There's no upside for Deontay Foreman. He's going to come in. He's going to get 8 carries a game, 40 yards. He's not really catching the ball out of the backfield. You're going to have to pray that he gets in the end zone every week to pay off using him in your lineup. There's just really, no point in drafting Deontay Foreman, in my opinion.
I'm going to ask our Bears writers this week about that.
It all seems to be the same, Nando. All the reports out of Chicago, Herbert's the main guy, and Roshan is, a rookie that looks really good, could play a significant role second half of the season. But there's a lot of these backfields, Nando, that drafters are struggling with, me included. That Philly backfield.
Oh yeah, segue us into the rest of your teams. Go.
I'm just saying that they're all, how do you look at the Philly backfield? Seems like every week, every day, there's a different report. Who's the main guy? First, it was Rashad Penny's looking good. Now
Rashad Penny's getting cut, right?
Yeah, now it's Rashad Penny's getting cut, and it's Swift's backfield. And then, Kenny Gainwell's running with the ones, and it's Kenny Gain. For me, the way I was playing it, and I was dead wrong this summer. I was taking Rashad Penny in a lot of drafts. And I thought, all right, listen, I can't see Gainwell or Swift being an early down back, and that Penny would be at least, a solid 12 to 15 carry running back on early downs. He's running behind one of the best offensive lines in football. And I thought it was a solid pick for where he was going, which was, you would get him between pick 90 and 110. So he has seemed to fallen out of favor with drafters right now. Swift and Gainwell are the apple of everyone's eye. Gainwell's moved up to pretty much that 110, 115 round range where people are jumping to get their hands on him. But it's a cluster F, over there with these three running backs. But if you do,
I think
take
you swear
chance,
here. I think you're allowed to swear.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
I don't know for sure, but I think you can.
Well, I mean, we're going to have to find that out.
We'll ask Theo.
Sounds good. But yeah, it's confusing backfield, and there's a lot of them, and it's either creating, a really good buying opportunity in these rounds from 8 on, or it's going to be a dead pick.
What's your buying opportunity with the Eagles, though? I mean, mine would be DeAndre Swift. Like he's been like a stud before.
He's the most expensive.
All of a sudden, he's like, oh, he sucks.
Well, he's the most expensive now, Nando. He's
doesn't mean he's not a value still. Though.
No, I'm not, absolutely not. He could come out and catch 50, 60 balls. But for me, if I'm using a 7th round draft pick, I want to make sure that, my running back that I have in my RB2 spot every week is getting more than, 15 snaps a game. So it's a slippery slope to play, especially with the running backs that are going right around him on the draft board. There's just other backs that are going to have more volume and to me are better picks on the draft board than DeAndre Swift. So I really don't have a lot of DeAndre Swift on my teams this summer.
What's James Cook? I know you're all over the boards. James Cook for me for like the last 6 weeks has been like, oh, this, someone's like, who's your sleeper? I'm like, oh, it's kind of like James Cook isn't like the perfect situation, but he's gone up so fast and so hard and so furious.
So fast, so hard. You can't
call
him that did sound. Listen, you can't call James Cook. You can't call James Cook a sleeper, though. All right, that's not what we're doing.
You could have like 4 weeks ago.
Listen, in June and
a
July,
value. Maybe he was a value. He wasn't a sleeper. He was a value.
In June and July, James Cook would come off the board in the 8th round, and he was my favorite pick in June and July. Yeah. Now he's all the way up to being a 5th rounder, early 6th.
He'll be third.
Rounder.
He'll be third before September 4th rolls around.
No, he won't. But
dude, I'm telling you, I've seen this hype train roll. Maybe not in your draft boards, but in like a normal person's draft board, I bet you he will.
Okay, listen, that's to each his own, Nando. But I think he settles in late 5th round, early 6th round, where he's going between picks like 55 and 70, 75, like that. It's going to be a great RB2 option, in my opinion, especially if you're drafting wide receiver heavy. You get an elite tight end early and you want to come back, start building your, the whole zero RB world that, is taken over.
Are you upset that you invented that and then other people are taking credit for it?
Don't start with
it's
that.
It's the truth. Is that a lie?
I'm
not starting with it. You brought it up.
Don't start with that.
And then you waved your arms dramatically.
The zero RB crowd is just really what everyone's just preferring this year. You see it all the time. I'm in drafts on a nightly basis, and there's at least 3 or 4 teams in every draft that start off 4 wide receivers, have they 5 in the first 6 rounds, and then they start. And this might be the year to do it. This might not be the year to shy away from it. I'm not saying it's my preference. But with all the running backs that have spent all summer long in the 6th, 7th, and 8th rounds, and there's like a solid 8 or 10 of these guys, these are running backs that we never used to see in the 6th and 7th rounds, guys that are getting 15, 20 touches a game. You used to have to look long and hard back in the day for that in the 7th and 8th rounds when everybody was a big running back early crowd. But now you could draft receiver heavy and come in the 6th and 7th round and get an Alexander Madison and a James Conner. These guys might touch the ball 20 times each. So, for the people that are swearing by zero RB, this might not be the year to jump off that ship with the value that's in the 6th and 7th rounds there.
Are you saying you didn't invent it?
Come on, Nando. Nobody cares.
I'm sorry. Yes, they do.
I'm not saying, and yes, I am saying that I didn't invent that. That's not inventing it. There were plenty of people playing it. I had success with it back in the day, and that's that.
Just say you invented it, man.
Whatever.
All right. Saints and Dolphins are the other two names you had on here. I don't know how upset you get if we skip over things to get to the next topic.
No, listen, these aren't a surprise to anybody listening, Nando. These, backfields are 3-man backfields. That's why we're talking about them, where drafters are all over the board with who they like out of the 3-man backfields. The Saints with Jamal Williams, a veteran who had a good year last year, Alvin Kamara, who everybody thought was getting 6 games suspension, now 3. He's come back into my draft plan. Just because of the simple fact I could get him as my RB3 in the 7th or 8th round and stash him if I already have 2 solid running backs the first couple of weeks of the season, then bring him back into my fantasy lineup. And all reports about him early in camp are he's looking like the old Alvin Kamara. So that might be a shot worth taking right there. And then, you have the rookie Keandre Miller, who looked great coming off his injury the other night versus the Chargers in their preseason game. So, it's kind of similar to the Bears, with Roshan Johnson being the Keandre Miller and a couple of veterans in front of him. Do you want to play the long game and hope that the rookie running back has the legs and the juice the second half of the season to take over the backfield, and you're grabbing him in round 10, Keandre Miller? It's do you want to draft 2 out of these 3 guys and play a combination, try and build a backfield, which I said earlier that I did with the Bears backfield. There's a lot of different ways to play it. And then, lastly, I'll say Miami, that's just a complete mess. Drafters don't know what the hell they're doing. To me, Jeff Wilson for the last couple months has been a huge value, and he's free in rounds 15, 16, 17. He's starting to move up now, but everybody was getting that discount because everybody, like I said, assumed Dalvin Cook was going to be the starting running back for the Miami Dolphins. And now that he's not, it's like, whoa, we have 3 guys in the backfield. They all go over 120 overall. Devin A-Chain gets hurt now.
I can't take his name anymore either.
Yeah, listen, a lot of people are on him.
But it's like, it's like annoying now, right?
Well, listen, he's an explosive player. But now this injury with the shoulder issue has pushed him down a couple rounds on draft boards, and it's moved up Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. One of these guys is going to be a really nice draft pick early in the season. You could see getting nice value out of Mostert or Wilson, whoever winds up getting the most touches. Maybe it's a 50-50 split early in the season between these two, but one of them is a pretty good value on the board right now.
Would you take Tyreek Hill number 1 overall? Speaking of Dolphins,
there's only 2 guys that I would take number 1 overall, and it's Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. So you can have your pick.
I bet you he has better numbers than both of them.
Anybody else that gets picked number 1 overall, other than those 2, it's a mistake.
Fair. Why not Tyreek Hill? With his 1,700 yards last year, with a concussed Tua as his quarterback.
I love Tyreek Hill, and I'll say it now. I have him number 3 overall on my board.
I think that's a mistake.
What is?
I'm not taking him high enough.
I just said I'm taking him 3rd overall.
Yeah, I would take him. I think you'd take him first. If you're picking first or second even. All right. I'm not going to bait you into that one. The importance of the 7th and 8th rounds of drafts at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
Speak.
That's ridiculous. You really are. You really are ridiculous.
I've worked with you long enough to know that if I do not say every single thing that you wrote, it's going to be a problem.
So
we can do your top 3. Hey, we can do your top 3 right now if you'd like. I got 3 topics for the top 3. They get progressively the 3.
No, let's stick
weird.
Listen,
I'm going to find a number to each
fantasy
one.
Football. How about we stick to fantasy football, which is
this top 3 was your idea. I'm just humoring.
Now you're crazy, out of the box thinking. Okay, Nando.
Well, you named this episode "Thinking Outside the Box."
I did.
You actually named it.
I did. Nando, the 7th.
So far, you've done nothing outside of the box.
The 7th and 8th round of drafts this year, to me, are probably the most important if you're going to take your team, over the hump here. They're very valuable.
You've been saying a lot of sexual things without realizing it today. You know that, right?
I guess so. Yeah, you're right. Nah, whatever.
You spent a lot of time with the Borgata.
Hey, Got to get it in when the summertime, right? In the
Shave those legs, get out to the Borgata.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but listen, the 7th and 8th rounds of
Wax
draft.
those legs on our way to Atlantic City.
You are the worst.
All right, hey, let's do this. If you're going to talk about the 7th and 8th round of drafts, maybe we can name some players who were in the 7th and 8th round of the drafts. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So stupid. It's just wide receiver territory, in my opinion, Nando. And
so you're building a team with wide receivers up top, maybe a quarterback in there, some running backs in the middle, and then 7th and 8th coming back around to get the wide receivers, right?
Well, see, that's why it's a good topic, because for all the drafters that are going 0 RB, right, and they're drafting 4 or 5 straight receivers to start off their draft, I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake. And then you come into this 7th and 8th round where, in my opinion, it's wide receiver heaven. It's, you have all these guys that.
Jahan Dotson, is he one of them?
Yeah. Dotson is one of them. To be honest, there's about a dozen. There's 12 to 14 of these wide receivers that right now in this range, they are so boom or bust. You could see any of them making a run at being a top 20 overall wide receiver. So to me, the point of what I'm saying is, I don't think you want to come into this territory of the 7th and 8th round of drafts this year and not get your hands on at least one of these dozen wide receivers, if not 2, if you're in the position to get 2 of them and use them as your flex play. So when you go wide receiver heavy early this year, the 6th round is loaded with running backs. The 5th and 6th round are loaded with running backs. A lot of people want to focus there. But you get a little past that and, the running back market starts to dry up after the 6th round a little bit. The elite 8 quarterbacks are now off the board, right, in the first 6 rounds. And you don't see another one until and then you don't see another one until Deshaun Watson around pick 100. So there's no quarterbacks here in the 7th and 8th round. You already missed out on the elite tight end crowd of Darren Waller, maybe a Kyle Pitts or a Dallas Goedert lands right around here. And, like I said, the running backs are pretty much dried up. So you're looking in the 7th and 8th rounds between picks 70 and 90 at all these really intriguing wide receivers that are in great spots. I mean, Sky Moore, Dotson, Jordan Addison. You've seen a lot of the rookies, Zay Flowers, that has potential in Baltimore to have an unbelievable rookie season. All these guys, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Gabe Davis is now moving up to where he's in the early 7th round. These guys have potential to give you top 20 overall season at the wide receiver position. So
Michael Thomas.
I want to get say that again.
Michael Thomas.
It makes it right at the end of this. He's in the 8th round of drafts. So he's an interesting one, Nando. A lot of people these last couple of weeks, they're either see him as a screaming value in that 8th round, or they're running scared because of what some of the beat reporters said, that he can't get off the line of scrimmage. He looks old. He looks like he's aged. But if you look at this Saints offense, and they have Chris Olave, who's going to operate as the clear wide receiver 1, and they don't have, they have a banged up Raheed Shaheed. The kid Juwan Johnson's getting some, buzz right now as somebody that could be the 3rd, target in the passing game. But I don't see how Michael Thomas doesn't fall into, a solid 8 targets a game here. And, what we saw last year in the couple games that Michael Thomas played was he looked real good again. And he's had a whole year to get healthy. By all accounts right now, he's fully healthy again. And when you're getting him in the 8th round of drafts as your wide receiver 4 or 5, as a wide receiver that you can bring into your starting lineup, it's a really solid option on the draft board if he is still not a shell of himself.
I know you don't like to give away your strategy because you do a lot of high stakes stuff and it hasn't happened. When is that?
No,
this weekend?
Open book. Say it again.
Yeah. Is that this weekend? When are the big live in person?
So New York, the live drafts are September 1st and 2nd. Gotcha. So next week. And then I jump on a plane and we all go out to Vegas for the live drafts in Vegas the following week. So busy time of the season. I'm really looking forward to it.
You got any other plans out in Vegas?
Yeah, plenty. A lot of drafts.
Sounds like.
But look, I mean, Nando, look at some.
Why
of
go
these
to
other
Vegas
names.
then?
Look at some of these other names.
You could do that in
Hollywood
Ohio.
Brown. You got Elijah Moore. You got guys that
you love Elijah Moore. You're never going to be able to let go.
Well, Elijah Moore last year burned me as well as many others.
What about Donovan Peoples-Jones? Everyone's so hot on Elijah Moore, and I would be too. But like Donovan Peoples-Jones got it done last year, and everyone's just kind of glossing over him to jump all over Elijah Moore.
He's, it's one of the players that I still can't understand why he's going so far down the draft board. He's there in the 18th, 19th rounds of drafts. I think he's more of a best ball play, to be honest with you. He'll have some spike weeks, but that offense just looks like it's Elijah Moore's going to play a big role in it. Njoku as a tight end. So where does Donovan Peoples-Jones come in as the fourth option on a team that's going to obviously have a ton of rushing attempts with Nick Chubb?
Well, I don't know, but we're christening Elijah Moore the number 2. Like he's jumped Donovan Peoples-Jones.
It's a solid point, no doubt about it. But I just don't think
I found I found one of your guys. That's why you're trying to walk around this one.
No, he's free, so you can bring up Donovan Peoples-Jones as much as you want. He's a wide receiver 7 on most people's fantasy teams.
Paint me a picture of Odell Beckham Jr.'s highest upside season.
That's another situation where earlier in the season I was drafting a lot of Bateman and Odell Beckham, just because after pick 100 you could get both of them, and I said, all right, listen, I think they're both going to be the top 2 wide receivers in this offense, in an offense that I think is going to obviously be way more wide open. But the emergence of Zay Flowers and how great he's looked has put a little damper on Odell Beckham and drafting him. And we're still waiting to see, how healthy Rashad Bateman is. So that's a little bit of a, it's a little bit, I'll take shots here and there.
We can't play this Rashad Bateman game again, right? Like,
Listen, Nando, you have guys like Cortland Sutton, Rashad Bateman. These guys last year were, drafters were loving these guys. They were, third rounders, second rounders. Now they're going in the 9th, 10th, 11th rounds. So what's the harm in taking a shot? It's not going to kill your fantasy team, to go back in and take a shot on a Rashad Bateman.
Is that okay, fine. You got a new offensive coordinator. Todd Monken maybe will have a system that better fits Rashad Bateman, but like Cortland Sutton has done it before, right? He has at least 2.5 really good seasons.
But he hasn't done it in a while. Yeah, he hasn't done it in a while. But
Rashad Bateman has never done it.
Well, I'll give you that one. But early in the season, before he got hurt, he was looking pretty good. So
I guess
it's just going to be one of those offenses where it's spread all around. Everybody's getting, what they can get after Mark Andrews. You can see a lot of Bateman and Beckham, lines where they're 4 for 60, the two of them each week. Solid real life players that help the Ravens and their offense succeed. But fantasy wise, what are you going to do with that? You really can't do much with the 10 points each week in PPR.
You know who's getting zero love? Your boy Adam Thielen. I know he falls a little farther out of this range that you wanted to talk about, but nobody's. I haven't seen like a thread about here's why you should pick Adam Thielen this year. Here's why you're an idiot for not picking Adam Thielen this year.
Because he's an old, boring type of wide receiver. He's going to
lead Carolina in targets.
Well, he absolutely might, and he probably will. But it's just another one of these offenses that's really boring this year. Nobody's really talking about that Carolina offense. All these wide receivers for Carolina go after 125 overall. Thielen, Mingo, DJ Chark, your boy. You see it's all spread around. People have their preference. Some people are in on the rookie Mingo. Some people want the steady veteran presence of an Adam Thielen.
Connie Swale.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Thielen's probably another one of these guys that's a 5 for 50 type wide receiver. It's not somebody that you're, going to run and, hit the accept button on the draft board and get all excited about. It's not that type of pick. Yeah, listen, it is. And on bye weeks, that can help you to slide in 10, 12 fantasy points in a PPR with an Adam Thielen, but he's a 13th, 14th rounder. Can you see an upside for him where he performs as like a 6th, 7th rounder? I really can't. Let
me see something.
I haven't loved what I've seen from, Bryce Young also this preseason. He looks like he's struggling a little bit, but one of these guys is going to pay off more than their value at cost right here, because they're all.
Adam Thielen's only 26. He's only 26 years old.
Adam Thielen?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might want to recheck that.
I'm joking. I know. He's 33. How are you doing the Giants? Like, I heard some Paris Campbell buzz early, and now everyone just wants to talk about Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah.
No one's talking about Kenny Golladay.
Don't make that mistake again, Nando, please. Yeah. But that's what people expect from you, Nando. So it was just fine. Kenny
Galladay's a cautionary tale, I think. That dude was awesome. Signed a big, like, it was awesome. Didn't even get old. Like, it's not like he was 33. You know what I mean?
I just think
went to the Giants, just disappeared completely, man.
Yeah, but he got the bag, as they say, and then he probably is one of these receivers that just doesn't love the game that much. Didn't put in a ton of work, and slowly faded into oblivion. But he got paid, and that's it.
So who's the next Kenny Golladay though? Who was the Kenny? There was no Kenny Golladay before Kenny Golladay, right?
No, listen, the Giants wide receiver corps is just going to be a complete 3 for 33 every week. Hodgins and Paris Campbell, who is one of the guys that I like to take as my wide receiver 7. If I could see one of the wide receivers emerging as a weekly flex play type, I think it's Paris Campbell. I think he's the most talented out of all of them. I think the kid Jalen Hyatt's now getting a little too overdrafted. Just because of the camp buzz. I just think he's a deer that they could just send down the field a couple times a game and take some big shots. And, he could be some weeks a 2 for 65 and a touchdown, or he can be, complete shutout. So he's not going to be one of those wide receivers that I see sometimes go in the 12th round of drafts. I don't think you're going to be able to put him in your fantasy starting lineup and expect consistency on a weekly basis. The Giants offense is all in the pass game. It's all about Darren Waller. The guy's steamed up so much to the point where he was one of my most drafted players all summer long in the 7th round.
He's had some turd seasons though. He's turned up a couple turds.
But Nando, that's why he started off draft season in the 7th round, because he comes with the lingering. He's 31 years old. He comes with the hamstring issues and everything. But now what we've seen in camp is he's Daniel Jones's boy. He's getting targeted like crazy. He looks fully healthy. And if there's a tight end on the draft board that you could see getting crazy value out of, it's Darren Waller. Andrews and Hockenson go too far up on the board. Hawkinson's starting to slide a little bit now to where you get him in the 4th round of drafts. But Andrews is at 3rd because you think where you're getting on a weekly basis with a Mark Andrews. But for a guy like Darren Waller, where he was going in the 6th and 7th rounds, to say, hey, if I take this tight end after I have 3 receivers and 3 running backs or something like that, and get a tight end that could give me 2nd round numbers on a weekly basis, if he's a 7 for 80 and a touchdown type tight end, all of a sudden I hit the jackpot in the 7th round with Darren Waller. But now he's a 5th rounder, an early 5th rounder, sometimes late 4th rounder. He's gone in the 4th round of the first couple primetime main events in the NFFC this past week. So the steam is fully behind Darren Waller in this Giants offense.
A guy who I'm getting hot on, and I know we don't have a lot of time left on the show, but I just wanted to share this with you to watch speaking of steam come out of your ears.
Sure.
We asked all of our beat writers at The Athletic to name one training camp development that's like fantasy relevant, like a player who surprised you training camp. We kind of molded it just like, give us a name that's not super obvious.
Sure.
And Nate Taylor, who covers the Chiefs, you know who he said?
Rashee Rice?
No. Guess again.
Come on.
Richie James.
Yeah.
Let me read this. Yeah. I can read this. This is behind the paywall, so you're all very welcome.
There
a 6-year veteran, James was one of the Chiefs' most impressive players during training camp. Kansas City, of course, will pass the ball plenty, and James appears to be a reliable option for Mahomes. James has the talent to be an effective slot receiver alongside Sky Moore. Another area where James can provide a fantasy boost is on special teams, where the Chiefs are known for their aggressiveness. James is the team's top punt returner.
Yeah.
So I know your high stakes leagues have punt return yards, so that's probably very helpful for you too.
No, Nando, I'll tell you what, there was a good solid 2 or 3 weeks where I was drafting Richie James in the last 3 rounds.
You're full of it. You hate it. Anytime I brought up Richie James last year,
I'm just telling you, this year I thought Richie James had a good chance to play a significant role in this Chiefs offense. But since then, a couple guys have emerged in this past game. It's scary. I could see after Kelsey, Sky Moore playing the slot role and Valdez-Scantling being on the field a ton as an outside weapon. But, Richie James
didn't do it last year, man. Why would he start now?
Richie James got off to such a great first week in Chiefs camp that's why I was like, you know what? This guy might find himself as like Mahomes' guy, Yeah. And it just seems like it's faded away a little bit. But, we also have the Kadarius Toney, hanging over our heads. If Kadarius Toney shows up in the next 10 days to practice, now what are we really doing here? You got Kelsey, you got Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney. The kid Rice looks like he needs to get on the field as much as possible. So there's too many mouths to feed for Richie James to play a significant role in this. I just thought maybe the target tree a month ago looked a little more promising for Richie James than it does now. So, listen, doesn't hurt to throw him on your team the first, the last couple rounds of your fantasy draft and see how he looks the first couple of weeks and see if his snaps are increasing.
You wrote here, I want to talk about a weird dream I had about Theo last night in your rundown.
What a weird comment.
Go ahead.
What a weird comment. What a weird comment. This is what they expect from you, though. This is such a
you have the floor. You have the floor.
That is such a normal Nando statement right there. Just a weird comment. But
look, your last two are kind of boring. It's like, who's this year's DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett? Like haven't they been? It's not like they were a surprise. Do you mean two guys who are going to make their quarterback better?
No, like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, of last year. Two receivers that outperformed their ADP because they were on an offense that nobody, liked, and with a quarterback that everyone hated. And
not everybody.
Well, not everybody. Yeah, congratulations, Nando.
Not the Chris Vaccaro show.
No, but you know what? If I had to throw that question at you, who would this year's, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett be?
I think it would be Denver. I mean, you're talking about two people who have already had success who can help out a quarterback.
It's not that bad of a – you're right. That's not a bad guess. To me, it has to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, though. It's just an offense that everyone's trying to avoid. Nobody wants these guys. And who knows? Godwin and Mike
Baker
Evans.
Baker Mayfield's a talented quarterback, man.
In your eyes?
In the eyes of the people who drafted him first overall and the Heisman Trophy voters and everyone who's ever watched a game in college.
Ryan Leaf got drafted as a top 2 quarterback also. Doesn't mean it's an automatic lock. More quarterbacks bust in the top 10 than don't.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying if
would you get that
guys are going to give you if two guys are going to give you the production that a Metcalf and a Lockett did last year on an offense that nobody really wanted a piece of, I think you have to look at Tampa Bay and see if Baker Mayfield can somehow elevate these guys. Maybe they get in some games where they're playing from behind and Evans and Godwin just keep racking up these points each week. Godwin right now, his ADP is 60th overall. Mike Evans is one of those receivers right before that group of 7th and 8th rounders that we just talked about that, nobody wants to touch Mike Evans on the draft board. You could get him as your wide receiver 4. And all he's done is put up 1,000, yard seasons one after another since he's been in the league. So I don't think it's a situation where these guys could give 2nd and 3rd round value as two wide receivers in an offense where there's not much around them. There's not a solid 3rd wide receiver. There's not a solid tight end. There's not much in this offense other than Godwin and Evans. So if they stay on the field, they're going to get targeted plenty and they could return really good value. The other one I would say,
Cade Otton.
I like, Cade Otton is one of those guys, Nando, that I still don't understand why he doesn't get drafted in 20-round drafts. He's always available. Nobody ever picks him, but I think he's going to play the third, target, the role of the third target in this offense. And he had weeks last year where he showed me something. I think Cade Otton could be a solid backup tight end where, people are running to the waiver wire after the first couple of weeks for a Cade Otton at the tight end position.
We got a question from Cameron B. I don't want to ignore the people watching the show who have come to see you. Hey, guys, if you're commissioner, how many seconds per pick do you allot in your – I love this question. 45.
100%. That is a good question because I'll say a minute. 1 minute.
You're too
because
kind.
I play in a home league where it's 3 minutes, and it's my worst. I hate the draft more than anything.
But you're online, though, right?
Yeah. But 3 minutes
if you're live?
is eternity.
If you're live,
If you're live a minute,
minutes.
No, a minute.
A lot of breaks.
A minute and change. A minute and 20 seconds tops. That's it.
The problem is, like, I had a league where the dude would just take so long, and he would go through papers, and he would go right to the very last second, and he'd always do well. And I think that frustrated me more. Was that he would take the entire 3 minutes of the clock, and then he'd do well in the league every year.
Cool story, bro.
No, it's good. I think it makes. I mean, if the person sucks and they take all that time, disorganized, whatever.
When you are on the clock, how long do you take?
Instantaneous.
Well, then what's the reason why you suck?
I don't.
No.
You want to talk about our baseball teams?
Oh, no.
Bad from day one, and that's because of the person who picks the first 30 rounds.
Okay. Fair enough.
Huh?
Fair enough, but not the time or the place.
Well, you brought it up. So I was just trying to answer a question for someone who's watching.
Gotcha.
And look, Cameron says, thanks, fellas.
You got it.
Don't you feel good about yourself? Now, you said before the show, I don't want to answer one effing question that comes up on the side or the bottom of the screen.
Ridiculous.
Because then I'll have to actually bring my head up to a normal place on the video.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to figure this
out.
Instead
of showing off my Home Depot $4,000 blinds. All the way to the tippy top.
There you go, buddy. There you go.
We should wrap it up. We'll do the top. I guess you were so hard on the top three, and you made me come up with a top three. And then now you're pretending like you don't want to do it.
Save it for next week, Nando. Your little idea.
I'll text you what the topics were.
Sounds good. But stick with us all year long. I'm excited to be back. Excited to be doing the show. Have a couple weeks of draft prep shows, and then we'll bounce into the season.
All three.
Come on.
I can't. We'll go. I'll tell you off air.
Yeah. Sounds good.
The running theme through all three.
This is what I got to deal with, people. This is unbelievable.
This is going to be the best show ever. I cannot wait.
Looking forward to it, Nando. And dealing with your craziness all year long.
Thanks, everybody, so much for joining us. This was such a wonderful time. Chris Vaccaro, and most of his neck and some of his chest that you can see that wants to thank you for for being here. Shout out to Theo and everybody who got us this opportunity, man. This is going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. We love you all very much. Goodbye.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.